Right, okay, folks, welcome to another nice and nasty episode 23, I think it is. Now, I'm going right back, right back to bloody hell, 2013, when, I started this YouTube lark, I did it purely to entertain myself. It was called the Meme Meister 10-minute mashup. The idea being I would play a shit game for 10 minutes and just talk about it. And I'd been going at it for about a couple of months, and I think I'd hit 3 subscribers. And then there was one night I made a video. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was doing these things every single day, and then I put out one, and I think it had like 1 view, and this was after like 2 days. I thought, what am I doing? What the hell am I doing? So I put out, I mean, it sounds ridiculous. I was at it for like 3 months, and then, or maybe not even that, and then I put out I'm calling it a day. And this young man, Brian, reached out to me and says, "Oh, I really enjoy what you do," and that was it. That was enough to keep me going. And here we are, 11 years later. I'm still at it, and I've got Brian back on the channel. How the hell are you, mate?
And I'm doing wonderful, and thank God you did stick at it.
Well, some might debate that, but anyway.
No, well, I'm glad you did.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Brian has been. I think there's 2 ways to go about YouTube. You're in it for the money, or you're in it for the enjoyment, and I am most certainly not in it for the first one. It's got to be the enjoyment, and I think if you do have your own YouTube channel or whatever it might be, you might record music on SoundCloud or whatever it is you do. If you're doing something and just one person says, I like what you do, or it's enjoyable, because I'm just a normal person, goes to work every day, come home, walk the dogs, make my dinner. But then you go into some like, so it's not like some kind of actor thing where you think, well, you expect people to watch it. When you're just a run-of-the-mill guy and you do something for your own amusement, and somebody out there in internet land says, I actually enjoy that, they enjoy it to such a point that they actually subscribe, which means that they want to see what else is coming out. It's a magical feeling, and anyone that makes content that doesn't say that that's the most impressive part, or not the most impressive part, it's the most rewarding part, because there's times where I'm like, for whatever reason, time's catching up with me, you just haven't got the time to make videos, you're not feeling it, or if you're maybe going through a bit of downturn, you're not feeling particularly great about yourself, or whatever it is, YouTube is probably, it's like any hobby, YouTube's one of the first things to kind of take a back seat, and I don't do it for effect, but there has been times where I say, right, I'm knocking the Friday waffle on the head, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I've ever announced that I'm giving up YouTube. It just takes one person to say, we're really going to miss this. Oh, bloody hell. And it's, so I can just say thank you very much, Brian, because, I mean, you've stuck with me through thick and thin. And like I said, you are quite literally the longest subscriber I've ever had. So, it doesn't get much better than that. You know what I mean?
I only found you by accident.
Yeah, you didn't have to say that. You're meant to say that somebody go, oh, wait till you see there's this fucking absolutely fantastic, charismatic Guy for Livingston does these fantastic YouTube videos. Yeah, you stumbled. What was it you were looking for? A Meme Meister, a mashup or something, was it?
No, well, back in the 80s, I was into house music, and I can't remember, I think it was on Radio 4, there was this DJ every weekend, he would take 10 tracks and he'd make a mix, and it was 10 tracks in 10 minutes, and it was called the 10-minute mashup.
Is that right? Yeah.
Now, I always think to myself, now, all music ends up on the internet, so I wonder if anybody's ever uploaded those. So I was actually searching for the 10-minute mashup, and I found the 10-minute mashup. Wasn't what I was looking for. It was this Scottish bloke. I'm going to review crap games for 10 minutes. But I was good.
It's like the stars aligned at that point. I mean, at what point?
Exactly, yeah.
How many videos had I actually done?
I think I saw your second one before I saw the first one. The first one of and so I think you'd only done 2 or 3 videos when I discovered your channel.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, well, Sewer Shark is the
Sewer
first
Shark
one.
was the first one,
and I think Crazy Kong by Interceptor Software might have been the second one. I'm doing that from memory.
I think. But
so what is? I mean, how many people Google 10-minute mashup? It's not even. It's not even three. It's not even 3 words that you would ever expect to come together in a sentence. And the fact that this guy for Livingston had decided to make a video and call it the 10-minute mashup. So if I'd called it the 9-minute mashup or the 10-minute collection, we would not be having this conversation.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, how's your laptop, by the way?
It's amazing. It's fast.
Is it? Brilliant.
Delighted fast, smooth, perfect.
That's good because when, as I says, it was my girlfriend's, and when I got it off her, it had all the bloatware on it, and I'm like, oh, God, it's as slow as shite, and I thought, oh God. So I took the liberty of completely wiping it. And I'm talking about like deleting all the partitions and all that stuff, because it's just like, if you're going to do a laptop, you're better just doing it completely clean. I'm delighted. So anyway, Brian, just tell the listeners a little bit about your background. From like, you're obviously you like old games. Tell us what was your kind of history of kind of video games? What was your first computer? Did you have an Atari 2600, or did you have like one of the old Astro Wars?
My dad bought it wasn't a Binatone, but it was very similar. It had like the tennis, and it had like hockey and football. Say football. It was like a square with a gap at each side, and like 2 bats move up and down, and orange controllers, analog controllers. They were analog controllers.
They were actually.
Yeah. And they weren't self-centering.
No.
I also had with another TV game as well. It was only black and white, but it had a light gun, and it just had this like white square that would go across the screen, and you had to shoot it. I think you got it in Dixon's. Remember Dixon's?
Yeah, Dixon's. Yeah. Sadly gone. I know.
Yeah.
So that was your first.
That was my the first system I had at home.
Yeah, have you got any brothers or sisters, by the way? I hope you don't mind me asking.
I've got 2 brothers and a sister.
And did they play this thing with you?
Oh, my sister did. It was because it was before my other brother was even born.
All right. Well, that would possibly pose a problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, my everybody that watches or is listening to this will know, because I'll keep going on and on and on about it. But yeah, I got a Binatone TV game which my granny had bought for her. My granny bought it for herself, and then the first time I went through to see her in Edinburgh, she showed me it, and then she goes, right, you can take it home with you. And yeah, I remember my mum and dad's their first reaction was, this is going to damage our TV. That might have actually happened, because the old screen burn thing. I think they're concerned about that. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think when it'd be. One of my sisters had left. She was married at that point. My other sister, she was 6 years older, so I don't know what I would be. I would be about maybe 9, 10. She'd be 16, 17. She really wasn't interested in playing this at all. And so it was just myself, and there's only a finite amount of enjoyment that you can get for one of these TV games. It's kind of weird, because I talk about what it was like to first see Space Invaders. There's these things coming down the TV, and more importantly, you could press a button and move this bit along the bottom. It's like this person is actually moving the TV screen. I didn't get that. I didn't get that wow feeling with Pong, even though that predated like Space Invaders, whatever. And so I quickly got bored. With the Benetton. I think possibly because I had nobody to play it with.
Well, saying that on your own, that would be boring.
I'm sure I did try and control left and right bat, but yeah, and there's only so much enjoyment you can get out of playing squash practice, you know. And I ended up bloody breaking mine because I found if I switched it on and off really fast, sometimes it would go into some kind of like weird mode where it looked like a scrolling road, and that actually. I ended up doing that deliberately because it looked like I had some kind of driving game. But so the Benetton. So what preceded that? Then presumably you didn't have that for like 20 years or anything.
No, I didn't have it for 20 years. No, I can't remember what happened to it. We talking about Space Invaders. I remember the chip shop where I used to live had a Space Invaders. That was the first place I played Space Invaders. It was at the chip shop.
Was that in Edinburgh? Was it?
Aye.
Yeah.
But the first computer I got was the Amstrad. In fact, the first two computers I got were Amstrads.
So, 2 computers, 2 Amstrads.
I'll tell you what that's about. When you bought the 464, it either came with a green screen monitor,
yeah,
or a colour monitor. And the first one I got had the green screen.
God, your mum and dad hated your guts. They despised you.
And Amstrad never sold the colour monitor on its own. If you want the colour monitor, you had to buy another computer, basically.
Is that right?
I'm sure most of the cost was in the monitor as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was like 400 quid. It was expensive.
Yeah.
Remember when my dad was working in John Lewis, that's where he was working in John Lewis, and I think he ended up getting the display model.
Oh, right. So was this the display green screen or the display?
Well, I think aye, because I remember. I mean, I can't remember the box for the first one, but the second one was boxed. So I take it I don't know why they'd have the green version on display. Who wants to see that? You want to put the colour version out?
What was the difference in price?
I think it was 150 quid or something difference.
Was it? So, I mean, back in 1984,
a lot of money.
It was a lot of money. And
you could still use it with your TV in colour. You could still plug them. Aye.
Oh, could you? You could connect.
Aye. You could connect it to Amstrad. Aye.
I thought that the monitor actually provided the power.
It did. Computer. So when you got the TV modulator, it was also a power supply.
Oh, was this a separate purchase?
You could buy the TV modulator. That was a massive thing. It was a power supply. It had 2 cables that went into the Amstrad, and the aerial wire that went into your TV.
Right, I never realised that. So when did the Amstrad actually get released?
I think it was 84.
84, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking. I mean, I didn't know that you could buy it separately. So what did the Amstrad computer sell for on its own? Could you buy it like the computer on its own and the TV modulator separate, or did you have to buy the screen with it?
I think the option was green screen monitor or colour monitor.
So you had to get the monitor with it, yeah.
I think so, yeah, which is a bit weird,
because I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a clever move, and maybe it wasn't from a financial point of view, but it was a clever move in obviously Alan Sugar's behalf, because one of the biggest problems you had having a computer, back in the early 80s, not many people had. Well, maybe, not many people had 2 TVs. If you're lucky,
we had one TV in the house, and then
and so getting to actually use it. I mean, I remember for probably the first 2 months of owning a Commodore 64, I could only use. I was only allowed to use it upstairs, maybe for half an hour every day, and even then it became boring having to take it upstairs, unplug it, and take it up. So I was stuck with I think it was a Pi. Remember that PYE, a Pi black and white. So
Aye.
playing games in black and white are even worse than playing on a bloody green screen. But yes, I didn't realise that. So I mean, obviously in the UK, I think it's fair to say the Spectrum was probably the most popular. More people
Oh,
had the Spectrum
definitely.
than anything.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
it was closely followed by the C64. Then it would have been the Amstrad.
Because
I mean,
Amstrad came out a lot later than the other two.
it did, and that's the fatal error. You know, you've got to get in early.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, like look at, was it VHS, whatever it was? They got in early and then Betamax, or maybe I'm talking bollocks. We'll not talk about that. But yeah, it's people had already bought the C64 or the Spectrum, and the thing is, back then you could. I mean, I think the Spectrum might have. It came out with the 16K model, and then very quickly they realised that nobody wanted a 16K one. I think you could get the Spectrum for like £99. The Commodore 64, I think it maybe dropped to about 150 quid. And then the third alternative was an Amstrad at 400 quid. So that's a lot
That's
of
a hell of
money.
a lot of money. That is a hell of a lot of money. Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. And I think
It
that's why,
is. Aye.
that's why the Amstrad has played kind of third fiddle, I should say, to the Spectrum and C64. So did you, at that point, were you like asking your parents for a computer for Christmas, or?
I got the colour one for Christmas. When my dad brought the green one home, I had no idea he was going to do it. That was just a complete surprise.
And was that before you got the colour one, presumably?
Aye, aye, aye.
Right. And so, see, prior to your dad bringing home the green screen one,
Mhm.
did, did you like, oh, I want a computer for my Christmas or my birthday or
Oh,
what?
I was obsessed with computers.
But
Oh,
you didn't actually own one at that point.
no, I
Yeah.
didn't own one. No, no, no.
Aye, so yeah, so you never really. So it was. Sorry for going into drilling down into the minute detail, but I like to know. So you got your colour one at Christmas. So
Hmm.
did the green screen one come along like that year, but earlier on in the year or something? Was it?
That was about a year later.
Was it? Yeah.
Like, yeah. So maybe 85, 86.
Aye. So you had to muddle along with green screen.
Thing is, I liked programming, and
Oh,
for
did you?
that, it didn't matter whether the games. Like, I mean, obviously, I loved the games as well, but I did a lot of stuff in BASIC. The BASIC on the Amstrad is brilliant.
Is it really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really, really good. I mean, the two best BASICs were BBC Basic and Amstrad Basic.
Mm-hmm. Was Amstrad basic? Was that not Microsoft?
It was Locomotive software.
Oh, yeah, I do. I recall that. Yeah. Aye. So you got your I mean, at that point, how did games work in the green screen? Were the early games, did they have like you got to pick what if you were playing it on color or green screen? How did that work?
There was some that did that, but other ones, I was just like it was kind of just like playing it on a black and white TV. The
Aye,
fact that it just
albeit
shades of green.
yeah,
Yeah,
just different shades. And I suppose it's like anything. It's funny how when people, I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago about 3D films, and I says it's interesting how 3D films was like 3D TVs are just like they were a gimmick, or not so much a gimmick. Nobody even talks about them now. Nobody wants them. You don't even talk about 3D films. I don't even think they make 3D films anymore. Whereas 3-4 years ago, if you went to see a
yeah.
like Terminator or Alien film or Rocky film, it was in 3D. And I probably saw. I mean, I don't go to the pictures a lot, but I probably saw maybe, I don't know, 20 films in 3D. Don't ask me what ones I saw, because apart from Avatar, because I remember that being the first like 3D film, after 5 minutes, your brain just kind of switches off, and
Uh,
you don't actually you're not even aware that you're watching it in 3D. And I suppose it's a bit like you playing a game in green screen or black and white. After a bit, because that's all you're used to, you fill in the blanks. You'll see the game in
Exactly,
colour in
aye.
your mind. You
A
know,
good game's still a good game, and
it's
whatever.
and again, it's a wee bit like I watch a lot of my TV and what have you on my phone. If I watch a film, I don't go, "Oh, that was a fantastic film," but the screen was a bit small. I don't remember it because I'm still
Exactly,
watching
aye, aye.
it. You don't remember how you see it; you just remember watching it. Uh, so yeah, green screen. So when you got the color one, um, so when you got your Amstrad, were you like delighted, or did you think, "Oh, I wanted to come to 64 like my pals"? Or
No, I was delighted. I would computer in the house, brilliant.
yeah, I think that's the thing, though. I mean, I only had one friend who had an Amstrad called Mark, who I'm still friends with to this day. But I'll need to find out what he did with that. And I remember going down to his house, and he had two games. Or that he showed me two games. One was Steve Davis snooker, and the other one was Blagger by Tony Crowther. And I remember thinking, these are great because one of the strengths about the Amstrad is the brightness of the colours. I mean,
It's
there's
so vibrant, yeah, yeah.
it's and you know we're we're not going to go into the nitty gritty about what's the better computer, but you know, when done properly. I mean, most people would probably say, "Oh, Commodore 64, yeah, it's got Uridium, blah blah blah." But when you look at some of the best games graphically, something like, is it like Grisar and Renegade and the shading, whereas on the
Mhm.
Spectrum of Commodore 64, it was like, you know, you got a guy, his top was red, he had green trousers and blue shoes. The Amstrad would have like Renegade. Their arms had different shades of brown to like give them definition. So the Amstrad, when it was done properly, was a fantastic machine. I think the sad thing is some of the games in it were fucking
It's-
diabolical.
oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh, that's good.
I give you Space Harrier. What the hell's going on with Space Harrier?
Yeah, you get it's all extremes. Either it's fantastic or it's rubbish. Just,
Aye,
I mean, plus there was all the Spectrum ports.
there was a lot because I think they both
The
share
same processor, yeah,
the
yeah.
80 or something. I think it was.
Aye, both said
And
80, aye.
you got sloppy ports, and then of course
Mhm.
people would say, "Oh, the Amstrad can't do scrolling." Well, that's
Yeah,
bollocks.
it
I
can
think
do so, yeah.
can. It might be slightly more work than say like on a C64 because I think that the hardware scrolling, whatever it was, I don't know. But yeah, when done properly, I mean, you know, some of the games were absolutely fantastic. Um, so you got your Amstrad, you got your. So how happy were you when you? But was there a tinge of sadness that, oh, I've just got the same computer but I've got a colour screen, or how did you feel when you got the colour?
No, because I remember um, somebody said to me, you know, got a Commodore 64. I'm like, well, nah, I didn't want a Commodore. Well, I had a few pals who had Commodore 64s, but I never used their computers. But like,
Mm-hmm.
they were always swapping games. And when I was, I think when I was 12, I knew one guy who had an Amstrad. Just so I used to swap games with him.
Mm-hmm.
But but that was it. Everybody else, I had 4 foot with C64s, and the rest of them had Spectrums.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I didn't want a Spectrum. I mean, that's the thing. You go with the color clash, and if you've not got a Spectrum, and you just see it, and you see all these colors bleeding together, and it's like,
Yeah.
this is terrible. Why would you want that? I just,
I'm going to upset people here, and I've got to say right now, I love the Spectrum. I think it's a fantastic computer. Some of the games in that are just something else. But back in the early days, if you put the three computers side by side, you would not, you would not, and I'm talking about diehard Spectrum people. If they had, you know, if they were given the choice, I don't think you would have picked a Spectrum because
nah,
the graphics. I mean,
nah.
it shouldn't. The Spectrum shouldn't have been as successful as it was because it didn't have any hardware sprites. It didn't have. I mean, you know, I remember seeing. I had never really seen a Spectrum before, other than like it used to. There was always like Spectrum games. It was like School Days or Bugaboo the Flea or whatever. There was always these games that they would have running on shop windows, and that was the only time I'd seen a Spectrum. And then I got to know a guy at school, and he had a Commodore 64. He had a Spectrum, and I remember going up to his house and seeing it, and I just thought, "That's shit! Look at it! Look at the graphics." As you see, it's like the colours are all bleeding into one another. And it's like, how can you? That compared to my Commodore 64 is crap. 40 years on, that they've all got their place, they've all got their strengths, they've all got their weaknesses. I said Amstrad is the one that I've got the least exposure to, because I never, other than briefly seeing my mates Amstrad once, I think I saw it, I never had any. I didn't know anything about it, and because it's a bit like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox now. You buy a game, you buy FIFA, that's not a game, that's shite. But you buy something like Call of Duty, that's another shite game. You buy a game like that, you can't tell what system it's on, they're identical.
Exactly, yeah.
And I suppose I was going to say that it's the same back then. You had when I went out and bought Gauntlet, you would go out and buy Gauntlet for your machine, and people would go and buy Gauntlet for their Spectrum. I don't know where I'm going with this, but what I liked about these times was, if you would load up one game and, I don't know, say like Uridium on the Spectrum, go, no, that's okay, that's not bad. You put it in the C64, it's like, fucking hell, this is incredible. every game that came out in Amstrad, Spectrum, Commodore 64, they all looked like different games. Sometimes even the games were different. I mean, like Cobra.
Yeah.
Cobra on the Spectrum is one of the most kind of revered games. It's like it was written by Joffa Smith, the late great Joffa Smith, who did like Hyper Sports. What else did he do? He did Green Beret on the Spectrum. He did the graphics, he did the sound, he did the coding. He was fantastic, complete all rounder. Then you look at Cobra on the C64, and you're like, oh my god! Because my mate Grant, the guy that had the Spectrum, we decided that we'd each buy each other Cobra for Christmas. So when I met up with him in Boxing Day, he went, "Oh, Cobra's brilliant." I went, "The C64 one's absolutely pish, and it was fucking awful." Don't know what the Amstrad one was like.
I don't think I ever played Cobra.
I think I have done should have done an 8-bit face-off kerfuffle.
Oh, well, I've seen you play it then.
So, anyway, listen, Brian, we better, time is marching on, so I've not brought you in just to kind of talk about the good old days. You know the script. Brian, I have asked Brian to pick 3 games. He's allowed to play 3 games for the rest of his life. That's it. He needs to get rid of every other game. So he needs to pick 3 games. We'll call it Desert Island games. He's going to Desert Island. He's only going to play these 3 games. That's the only games he'll ever play ever again. It can be anything at all. It can be online, whatever it is. And then the downside is I'm going to ask him to pick 3 games that he just dislikes for whatever reason. It might be crap. It might be too difficult. It might have led to a type of game that he despises. It's Brian's choice. So I'm going to start off with the good stuff. We'll go for the good games. So game number 1, what would you take to your desert?
Game number 1 is Speed King.
Speed King. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I know that one. You want to tell us why?
Speed King. My favourite racing game on the Amstrad, and one that me and my dad used to play for hours.
I remember you telling me that.
Such a good game, such a good sense of speed, and the skill factor is great, because I mean, if you just floor it, you'll just crash. The only thing is the opponents are just rubbish. I mean, what me and my dad used to do is, like, start the race and let everybody lap you 2 or 3 times and see if you could still win. And you still did.
So it actually had it had the intelligence that if what do you call it, a motorbike lapped you, if you then passed it and then caught up with it, it had the intelligence to know that you'd actually overtaken that.
Yeah, so you could let them lap you 3 times, and then you could still end up winning the race.
Yeah, as long as You,
It's like your bike was capable of 250 miles an hour, and their bikes seem to be like stuck at 90. That's why it's just, I
you
don't
know
know
it's
why.
yeah. What's nice about that is the fact that you're talking about you used to play it with your dad, and
Oh,
that's a. So I'm sensing, apart from it being a good game, there's a huge like swath of nostalgia.
oh yeah, yeah,
That's you've
yeah.
just got happy days, and I do remember the game. If I remember rightly, I mean it came out. I think it might have did it. I mean it came out in the C64 Speed King. I'm sure it was programmed by the guy that did 3D Death Chase on the Spectrum.
Is that
Something.
right?
What's he called? If I was in, I'm actually sitting downstairs on my laptop, so I can't check. But I'm sure he programmed. Oh no, I beg your pardon. It was full throttle. I'm thinking of. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, that's niggling me. I'll need to double check that. Full throttle came out in the Spectrum, and it was a motorbike racing game. I'm sure, and I might be talking rubbish. I'm sure it then came out certainly for the C64 and obviously the Amstrad, and it was a game called Speed King, and it might have been the same guy. You can check while you're talking, and you presumably you're in front of your computer. You
I'm
can
in front of the computer.
you can double check to see who programmed it. But yeah, the game that you're talking about, or folks that Brian's talking about, it was think Super Hang On for the 8-bit, but I've never seen it in the Amstrad, or I think I played it once for a live stream, and you asked me to play it on the C64. It had something like 32 opponents. It was it was like really realistic. It was a really fluid game. It wasn't like the fastest game in the world, but the way you could like lean into the curves, it was
Yeah, yeah.
graphically it was quite simplistic. And I'm sure you had gears, and you had to kind of master gears as well. So it was
6 years.
yeah. So it wasn't just like pole position, holding the fire button down, and away you go. So yeah, I'm completely with you. But if you could find out who programmed that, because I can't remember what the name of the guy was. So yeah, I mean, what is it? How many tracks did it not have? Quite a number of tracks as well built into it.
Oh, I think it was. Was it eight or ten? There are quite a few. It was because
Yeah.
you had Silverstone and you had was it Indianapolis and San Francisco. The only
Yeah.
the only bug in Speed King, if you're on one of the really twisty tracks, you're going along 200 miles an hour, you're heading for a hairpin, you slam it down into first gear and let go the throttle, and the bike would just stop dead. Just absolute. The guy would just put his foot down. It was
Instant.
right from 90 to 0. Just you you could not freewheel in first gear. If you went into second gear and let go the throttle, it would just slow down gradually. But if you went to first, as soon as you let
Boom.
go the throttle, dead stop.
So
But
is it one of these games then you think you could how many laps did you have to do?
on the race, I can't even remember. We used to do Silverstone and just go for lap times.
Aye. So yeah, So in effect, yeah, it's like one of these games. It's kind of infinite, because you could always, when you're sat there on your desert island, you could just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. Have you tried it recently, like in the last 10 years, whatever?
I tried it when I got my Mister. I thought I have to try Speed King. See, it was brilliant. Oh, brilliant! Absolutely. I mean, I played it for a couple of hours. It was brilliant. Just brilliant.
Have you found the programmer yet? No.
Where was yeah?
Yeah, well, sorry, I'm just.
Speed King by Ian Mew. Ian Mew. Aye. Mastertronic.
It's possible. It's possible that he didn't. Yeah.
I don't know what version.
I'll let you. I'll let you talk about game number 2. I'm going to have a wee look. So yeah, Speed King will be game number 1.
Game number 2 on it's ATV by Codemasters.
Is that a sort of a flight simulator type
No,
thing.
it's a two-player. I say two, mind you, two players on a desert island. Well, you could play it single player, but you had the split screen, split
Oh,
horizontally.
can you kickstart type thing?
Yeah.
Ah, but did you know? Is it when any time I've only done a couple? You used to ask me to play. I thought it was Beach Buggy Simulator, or was it ATV that you always asked me to play?
Beach Buggy Simulator. I like that as well, and
Uh,
it had the best music on an Amstrad game. Well, my favourite tune on an Amstrad game.
yeah. So ATV. So what was it? All terrain vehicle, presumably. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I take it we're talking about the Amstrad here again.
yeah.
Okay, and why would you? So that's two race games you've picked there. Bear in mind,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have anyone to play with you.
That's a bit of a problem though. Yeah. Well, I did have quite a lot of levels, but mind you, I used to play that with my brother, and oh, it's brilliant. I would say it's the best. I was going to say best two-player game, but that's no good on a desert island.
Uh,
Can I not play against all these other folk who are stuck on the desert island as well? You've done loads of these videos. There must be loads of folk on this island.
so yeah, ATV. So it was similar to. I can't recall it. I can't really recall it if I'm being honest. But so it's very similar to like
It's,
Kickstart. You're going
yeah,
for
I like the way if you're going over something and you time it wrong, the guy goes flying off the bike, and you have to run
right.
after it. You have to run after it.
Yeah, and how many was it? Was it similar to Kickstart where you had like 3 courses and then you got to the end, or was it just like one track
Oh,
and
I
then?
think no, it had more than it had. Well, when you it had, I think it had more than three. Well, it was not like I'd say a course. It was like um, I had 5 or 6 courses.
Mm-hmm. And was it another one of these ones where it was just you tried to shave as much time off? So could you see yourself playing this for like years to come?
Maybe
Well,
not. You know what?
you've made your choice now. You've made your choice. So yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I mean, why did you pick that game? Was was it nostalgia? Do you think, or was it?
I used to love playing it with my brother, mind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to get him on the desert island as well.
I will get him on, and I might allow you to share the island. So that was Codemasters. So yeah, I mean, again, just the enormous fun with it. I mean, I'm thinking it's not going to have the same longevity
Mm.
that Speed King had. Anyway, yep, nothing wrong with that. It's your choice, your island, your podcast. Right, game number 3. Please don't make it a racing game. Game number 3. You're going for Chase HQ, aren't you?
No, you were close. I'm going for. Can I have the hydraulic outrun, the big one?
You can have whatever you want. Absolutely.
The hydraulic outrun, the one that was in
Yeah.
Portobello on the promenade.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
when that came out, that was the arcade game that impressed me most when it first came out.
Yeah.
Outrun. Oh my god, that thing was amazing.
Yeah. Wait, have you? When did you? When have you last had a shot at outrun hydraulic?
Uh,
Like 1986 or something.
Yeah.
Well, you need.
I've played upright versions since then, but
No,
it's not the same.
I'm with you in that one. Well, we'll need next time we go. We'll be we'll be organising a Mainmeister road trip down to Arcade Club next probably March. So make sure you take time off and you can come
I
down.
will do. Oh, definitely.
And then
definitely.
you can get to play your outrun. Yeah, I mean I've always outrun. It's an impressive game. I do think it's slightly overrated, but for at the time it was phenomenal. Even now, it's still a lovely game to play, but you've got to play it, the hydraulic one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've played it. When did I last play it? Arcade Club, yeah, it was Arcade Club last year. No, this year. Yeah, it was this year I was down there, and yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, anyone that's listening to this knows exactly what Outrun is. You've got the big screen. You've got the steering wheel. The steering wheel's got force feedback, which was quite
Yeah.
unheard of back then. It'd fling you about when you toppled over. The steering wheel would go haywire. You had the pedals. You had the gears, and more importantly, you had it would throw you about from left to right. There was different versions of the sit down. There was ones where I think you might have had the static sit down ones where it didn't move, or maybe that's my mind making that up. But certainly the hydraulic one is a thing of beauty.
Oh,
So,
incredible!
Yeah. You've obviously got 3 racing games, so I hope you enjoy racing. You can't come back to me, Alan. Can I swap it for mine? Nope, that's your games.
The thing is, I used to like text adventures on the Amstrad, but I wouldn't want to play a text adventure I'd already played. It's all right if I could get a brand new one that I've never seen before. But I mean, once you've done it, you've done it. Once you've worked out all the things, you don't want to do it again.
Yeah. And have you completed Outrun?
No.
Yeah, again, if you've not played it since 1986, I've never completed it, but then that's no surprise. I mean, back then it would have been like 50 pence, which was a whopping amount of money.
Oh, aye.
Yeah, I think the first one I ever played was in LA's in Edinburgh, which was on Lothian Road. That was like the nearest arcade to me. It was great. It was quite small, but they had a lot of. I played Hard Drive in there. I played some. Fantastic.
You had the split road. The first time you managed to get through the split road and up to the checkpoint. It was this time. The music. Oh, the music's just. Outrun had the best music.
Yeah, it's one of these games where everything came together. It's. Is it the best game in the world? Probably not.
No.
I'm trying to think. Oh no, I can't talk about this game because it's a future podcast which has not come out yet. But yeah, it's Outrun. I would say it's far from being the best game in the world, but it's got beautiful graphics, sound is to die for, the controls, the pedals, the brakes. The only thing missing was if they had put like a big fan and it was blowing in your face, and maybe they probably wouldn't have it because of like Legionnaire's disease, is having like some kind of spray that every now and again when you get too close to you just get a wee spray water. How cool would that have been with it?
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
That'd have been something else. And then of course when you crash you would need like the virtual woman battering fuck out you because he pummels you when you flip over, I think.
So no, if you can play it, you get to shag her.
Nah, you picked. I mean, that's an absolute stonewall classic. So, yeah, 3 great games. Yeah, I'm surprised you've picked. I think they're the first person to pick exactly the same genre. But these are your games. So, right now to the slightly kind of more sinister side of the podcast. 3 games which, for whatever reason, should quite simply be erased from memory and never to have existed. What would it be?
The first one is Flappy Birds. I mean, you can have good games on your phone, but Flappy Birds. What was that all about? Jesus,
yeah.
The guy apparently made a fortune out of that. Like how? But why?
It's a weird thing. Flappy Bird, I was going to say, is a bit like Crazy Frog. It was just one of these. The thing about Flappy Birds, it is essentially quite a good game, and it's got the most hideous or great, whatever you want to call it, spike as far as grabbing you in to make you play again. Because as soon as you die, within 2 presses of your screen, you're back in, and that's a genius mechanic. You're instantly back in the game, dead, back in, dead, back in. Whereas a lot of games now, dead. You got a death sequence. then you'll get the high score, then you've got to wait for it to go through the thing. No, Flappy Bird, dead, back in, dead, back in, dead, and it's just boom. I mean, it's uh, it's a fantastic game. I mean, I'd love to have made £1 for every copy that was bought.
Oh, crikey, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, the guy, and I think this is true. The guy that programmed it, I think apparently he became so sick of it within about a month. He ended up removing it because I don't know whether he was getting death threats or whatever, but it just became this global phenomenon that he ended up removing it. Yeah, Flappy Bird. I mean, that's that kind of leads on to like sort of mobile games in general. There are all these a lot of mobile games. It's quick reaction, Twitch gameplay. You've got to touch the screen at a certain. I mean, there's a game that I've got, and it's I've only got about 4 games on my phone, and it's these blocks move over, they slide back and forwards, and then you touch the screen to drop it, and then it moves on. And what you try and do is build a tower, and it's just about timing. And if you think about it, that's just Flappy Bird. It's just about boom, 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 pressing it. So yeah, it was a genius game, but was it enjoyable? No, I think the frustration outweighed the enjoyment. But whatever the guy set out to do, I think he achieved it. So what is it about that game? Is it about is it the game itself, or is it the genre of games that it went on to kind of
I think it's
inspire?
the whole genre because my second game is very mobile as well, and it's Candy Crush. I
Right.
mean, what you're doing, you flip the two things round and you get 3 in a row, and blah, blah, blah. You see folk playing that for hours. They're obsessed with it.
Yeah, well, again, I think I mean Candy Crush. I've never played it. I've seen it. I mean, there's so many games that look like it. Is it Bejeweled
Yeah,
and all this kind of stuff?
yeah.
Yeah. So do you match up like 3 coloured gems and then they disappear?
Yeah, and that's it.
Aye.
That's all it ever is.
The thing is that type of game again, it's like it's like digital cocaine, and that again, whoever made that game, price of might, if you even had 1 pence for everyone that bought that, you'd be a millionaire.
And there was Candy Crush, and then there was Soda Crush. There was so many sequels, and folk keep going for it, and
it's they're very very. You can tell that these games are programmed by lots and lots of people. It's like, right, how do we draw people in? How do we get them addicted? What we're going to do is we're going to have the brightest, most appealing graphics. Let's make it like sweets. It looks sweet. Oh, put lovely music, make it bright and vibrant. Let's give people the option. I mean, is Candy Crush, is that one of these ones where you get in-game purchases? Is it?
oh yeah. Why would people even think about buying stuff in a game like Candy Crush? I mean, you could see why in a bigger game, they might be still stupid anyway, but.
Aye, I mean, like I said, I mean, I remember, and the thing again, the Candy Crush is probably the ultimate social game that appeals to people who don't play video games. So I would, well, it is a video game, yeah. I don't know. I'm not a fan of mobile games at all. I'm an old fart. I understand that things move on. There are people who've probably the only video games they've played is on a phone, because I mean, I suppose a phone is essentially a computer. But yeah, Candy Crush, is that a video game? I would never ever use Candy Crush the same phrase as like Drop Zone or China Miner or Elite.
Nah.
But it's still a video game. It's still a game where you interact. But it appealed to. I mean, I remember I remember there was a woman I used to work with, and she was at that point, she was in her like 50s, and she would sit and play Candy Crush at lunchtime, and you would see people, excuse me, you'd see people posting on Facebook, oh, can anybody give me a pink gem, blah, 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 blah. Apparently you can you could gift like unlockable to other people.
Goodness sake. For goodness sake.
So, are you clipping your toenails, by the way? It sounds like you're going.
Do you know what it is? I've got the case, my earpods in my hand, and I was just flicking it.
I'm just clipping these toenails. So, I mean, that presumably, if Candy Crush had never existed, then yeah, it may have led to. Well, it had probably still appeared. I mean, I think Candy Crush has led on to lots of other types of games. But then there's a game which I think is fantastic, and it came out before Candy Crush, and you could argue, say, well, that is just Candy Crush, and it's Zookeeper. Zookeeper on the DS. You can actually get Zookeeper for Android. I don't know if it's still available, but I've got it on my phone, and it's fantastic. It's exactly the same game, but I think for me, because it came out on an actual it came out on a Nintendo console, then that makes it all right. Possibly if Candy Crush had come out in the DS or something, you and I might have not been having this conversation, or would you have still picked it? Is it because it's on a mobile phone that you
I think it's just so it's like seeing folk sitting at work or on their break, and they'd spend the whole break playing Candy Crush. Or you see folk on the bus playing it. It's like, and it's just, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Okay, right. You've given us the second game, and the third game of hell. What's it going to be?
The third one is FIFA. Now, I like computer games. I like football computer games. I mean, I liked Match Day and Match Day 2 on the Amstrad. I mean, I love playing it with my brothers. And Sensible Soccer, brilliant. What was the one on PS? What was the other one on the PS3 I used to play?
Superstar Soccer or Pro Evolution?
Pro Evolution, yeah. But FIFA, and I'm bringing it the same game year after year. Why didn't they just make it like a subscription thing? I mean, are people really paying like 70 quid for it and then buying the next year and paying
70 quid? 70 quid and some. I mean, you'll not be surprised to know. I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcast. You'll not be surprised to know FIFA has cropped up on a number of occasions, for different reasons. And yeah, I mean, for me, one of the first games that I got on my C64, and I've got a diary that I kept back in 1983. I kept it for about 6 months, and I shit you not, you can look at every day, and every single day I played international soccer on the C64, and I played it and played it and played it, and then I'm trying to think. Microprose Soccer came out for the C64. Emily Hughes Soccer came out, great. Pardon me. And then when I eventually upgraded to the Commodore Amiga, I got best football game ever. Sensible software, sensible soccer. It appealed to. I'm not a football fan at all. I've never really watched football. I watch it maybe if Scotland are playing, but not a football fan. But Sensi Soccer it was based obviously it's based around football, but it just made it so much fun to play. FIFA, I think I remember, was it Sega Power or was it Mean Machines? Yeah, do you remember the magazine Mean Machines?
Yeah.
And then it became like Mean Machines Sega. And I remember seeing like a review of FIFA Soccer on the Mega Drive, and this just looked incredible. It's like, bloody hell, this is 3D. But of course, FIFA Soccer, the very first version that came out that I'm aware of was on the 3DO, which was like a next-gen machine. But FIFA came out in the Mega Drive, and I remember like, oh, it's got, you can rewind it and all this kind of stuff, and it was like isometric 3D, and I remember saving up my money and I bought it for the SNES, and whilst it looked fantastic, I kept just going back to I kept just going back to like the Amiga Sensi Soccer, and then of course, so the first, obviously the 16-bit consoles, it was all that 3D. Then when the PlayStation came along and the Sega Saturn, it suddenly became all polygons. And then now you've got it on the PlayStation 5, and it's like it's photorealistic, and it's just, for me, it's utterly soulless. I think part of the reason I despise FIFA is because I don't like football really. I despise the not personally, but the money that they pay these footballers. I mean, I heard an article the other day there. Ian Wright was slating some of the English football players because they don't want to play for their country and all that. And I just think of all these like little spoiled brats who are getting like 200 grand a week, and then you see the latest FIFA, and it's got a picture of whoever it is, Ronaldo in the front. You're like, oh. And then even then, when you do, if you do load, I mean, we'll go into this in a second, but I bought a copy for not a lot of money. I think it was like FIFA 2016, and I put it on for like half an hour, and it took me about 20 minutes to get through all the fucking setting up how to actually get in a game. You've got all that obnoxious music, which I don't like because I'm an old fart, and it's like far too hip hop for my liking. It's for the young team. But then you can go into like the PlayStation Store, and you can buy FIFA for $49.99, or you can buy another one for $79.99. I'm sure I even saw one. It was like £100, like £100 a game.
£100.
And then people are then in-app purchases. They're spending like real money on Lionel Messi's thing. I mean, there was a thing, and you've seen it in the newspapers. Some wee woman in the Daily Mail. Oh, my son's PlayStation account was hacked, and they've hacked and they've stolen his FIFA, which cost us like £2,000. It's just yeah. And actually, in fact, no, I better not talk about it because it's a podcast which is coming out, so I don't want any spoilers as such. But yeah, it's just, and so there's that. And I mean, I don't think FIFA is a bad game, but it's the fact that they put out, they must employ a lot of people, and they'll say, right, we're going to have this fancy kick and this one. We've got like 20 special. No. Right, see the 20 special moves. We're working on FIFA 2025. Put these two in for that one. These two are for 2026. These two are for 2027, and we can sell it at full price. So it's the same fucking game, but it's updated with football players. And we're going down a rabbit hole, which is a topic on it all on its own. Kids nowadays, I mean, I can't remember who was it. It might have been my last podcast with wee Bob. I think it might have been. Apologies if it wasn't you, Bob. But talking about how people say, do you like video games? Yeah, I love video games. What do you play? FIFA and Call of Duty. They're not video games. Yeah, somebody that says that they like video games and they play Call of Duty and FIFA. You're like, oh. Yeah, so what is it about the game, apart from it being a rip-off? What is it about the game? Is there one thing? What is it about that game that you don't like that like Pro Evolution had?
It's what you said. It's the in-app purchases should be banned. There just should be. I mean, also it's the same game. What it should have, it should be like Windows. You should just be able to update it every year for free. I paid. I pay. I mean, there's other games that get updated. You don't have to re-release the whole game.
Aye, with
I mean, sure,
an extra special move.
exactly.
Somebody
Aye. I
just changed
mean,
the names. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. This is something that I've never really considered. I mean, anything at all. If you want to use Lionel Messi or Ronaldo or whoever the fuck it is that's the best football player in the world right now, if you wanted to use Manchester United's team names, they're going to charge you a lot of money. And so I would imagine that a lot of the money that a huge part of the budget for FIFA, because let's be honest, FIFA 2024 and then FIFA 2025, the game engine, they're just going to tweak it slightly. Can they keep making? I mean, they've been at this since 1990. We've had like, I remember there was FIFA. I think it was at FIFA. Then it was at FIFA 95. So they've been at this now for 30 years. You think by now they would have fucking got a decent game put out. Why do they continually bring out the same game? Because they make money, that's why.
Exactly. There must be a demand for it. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a demand for it, but
your 10-year-old kid that wants the latest Man United strip wants the latest FIFA, and that's why it is. But then, in fact, I heard that it's no longer called FIFA because I think they've lost the license.
FC 25 is called now.
Aye, so
they lost the FIFA license. Yeah, how did they lose that?
The FIFA license. Does that mean that it's come down in price because they don't have a license to pay? I wonder.
There's no way it's come down in price, is there? That's not going to happen, is it?
Or have they gone down the route of instead of Eric Cantona, it'd be like Eric Kuntuna or Kuntuna, like we had back in the day.
That was cool.
See, the thing is though, if FIFA had just, if it hadn't been called, if they'd called it just like, Football Frenzy or something, and they just had made up names. I mean, like Sensei Software, they hit the nail on the head. You could play custom teams. You could play like car parts versus Chinese takeaway. And, you had like chicken chow mein in goal, and you had sweet and sour sauce on the wing, and brilliant header by barbecue spare ribs. It was brilliant. You could just, it didn't matter. But yeah, I think it's because we're old farts. The young team, they tend to, I don't know, 16-year-olds, they want to have all the current teams. They want to have the proper strips. So I suppose I would imagine that the majority of the money that they bring in for FIFA will go towards paying for licenses. So why not just go down the route? Why not just go down the route of match day and just have, made up names? Don't know. So yeah, that's your 3 games. Just to recollect, what was it? You had Speed King, your 3 games: Speed King, ATV, and Outrun Hydraulic. Had to be that. And your 3 games of shame was Flappy Birds, Candy Crush, and FIFA. Yep, no arguments in that score. Anyway, Brian, listen, mate, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. This podcast will be going out in a couple of weeks' time, so you can watch out for it. So yeah, thanks, Brian, for taking time to join me. It's always nice tying up, buddy. I know we did actually tie up in real life a couple of weeks ago, but it's always good. Yeah, you can bugger off now and watch my Friday Waffle, which is coming on.
Well, I've just got to say, Alan, thanks for doing what you're doing. It's just, it's been great. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. No, joking aside, Brian, as I says, mate, it's knowing, it's doing something that you enjoy, but knowing that you're putting a smile on somebody's face is absolutely priceless.
One other thing I've got to say to you: happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, happy birthday tomorrow. Yeah. 21 years old, not. Anyway, listen, I better go. I better
Okay.
go before I've got my Friday waffle. So, thanks again, Brian. It's been an absolute pleasure. And finally, folks, as always, thank you very, very much for listening.